Welcome to Level 1 Pattern Optimizer. What you're looking at on the screen right now is Dr. Jones's Pattern Optimizer, and my job is going to be to start out with the elementary use of this. There will be more than one video. This one we're going to call Level 1. There will be a Level 2, and then we'll have to see how many more levels we do beyond that. So this is intended to be very simple. The purpose of the Pattern Optimizer is to give you an opportunity to look at how things interact with your shotgun pattern and to be able to predetermine the goals you would like to practice to. Example, as a trap shooter, would you like to know the absolute distance at which it is impossible for a singles trap shooter to break every target even if his gun is pointed perfectly every time? Well, this is one of the things that the Pattern Optimizer will help you learn. So it's a mathematical tool based upon 7 years of experience of Dr. Jones with shotgun patterns and how they act and operate, and then turning it into this graph that allows you to determine ahead of time what you have to learn to do to be able to break targets 100% of the time in the case of trap shooting and skeet shooting. And in other disciplines where you are shooting at obvious distances that are beyond what will work, your best way of being able to break as high a percentage of number of targets as you can. So I'm going to start over here in the left-hand side now, and we're going to go through 5 controls that you have within this mathematical tool. And the first control is over here on the left-hand side, and it's called target area in square inches. Here's a slider. Notice as I move this slider up and down here in the window, the number of square inches is changing. So notice that. For now, don't worry too much about the fact that out in the middle here you see a graph changing. That graph is too difficult to understand at this point in time. So let's leave that out of the picture for a moment. So we're going to then, one of the things is to set the square inches of the target. In the case of a trap target, which is coming out of the trap house at about a 17-degree upward angle, and if you take an edge-on clay target, roughly 4 square inches, and by the time we shoot at the target when it has about a 13-degree pitch yet, the number of square inches of surface area that you have to shoot at is about 5. So I'm going to lower this number down until in the window I see 5.0. See if I can, there I got it. All right, that's one setting. The next setting is how many pellets are in your load. So here we have, it says the average pellet count. You can see again a window. That's going to vary as I move this slider up and down. And I'm going to start out in this simply by talking about number 8s. An ounce and an eighth of number 8s has 465 pellets. So I'm going to change this. It's about as close as I can get to 464. You can see that as this is changed, even though you don't know what's going on in the middle over here, do notice that the more pellets that you send at a target, the more those graphs become bigger and bigger, and the less pellets, the smaller and smaller. And that's about all I'm going to say about that for right now. So roughly 465 is where I'm trying to get to. Close enough. Now the third thing that we're going to look at down here in this bottom area, it's called the 75% spread diameter in inches. And again, there's a window, and notice as I move the slider, the number in the box changes. Now what is this all about? Well, we're going to be more precise about talking about our pattern diameter than simply saying we're using a full choke. And this can be a little bit hard to quite get the idea, but let's start with it. Dr. Jones has determined, and in another piece of software that is also available to you, he always will show you how many pellets fell inside of a circle that represented 75% of the total pellets, and he gives you that diameter in inches. And one I like to use and have memorized myself, and this all comes out of Dr. Jones's information, is that on average a full choke, the diameter of the pattern at 33 yards will be 22 inches. So I'm in effect, when I change this slider down here to have 22.0 inches in the window, what I'm really having in my own mind that I'm looking at is I am I am really saying that I have a full choke in my gun, and if I patterned that full choke at 33 yards from the muzzle of my gun, 75% of my 464 pellets that I have in here would fall inside of this 22-inch circle. So this race really tells you, in effect, it relates back to your choke, but in kind of a different way than you might expect. That's the third control. Now, I'm going to go over to the right-hand side of the screen here, and we're going to, rather than go to the next control, I'm going to show you something kind of interesting. At the moment in this window, you can see that there is an outer ring, and that represents the old 30-inch circle that we all talk about. Then we see an inner circle, which is the old 20-inch circle that we talk about. And this white area right here is really a representation of something else, and that's the accuracy of you, the shooter, and I can vary that all around, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But what I want to do right now is I'm just simply going to click on the shoot button, and I want you to notice how the next pattern up here looks so completely different from this one. So bang, see how different it is? Bang, see how different it is? And this is one of the things that Dr. Jones has basically has done so much research on it, there's no doubt about it, that shotgun patterns are random in nature. So every time you take a shot, you get a random pattern on whatever you're shooting at. And the only thing that he says is really true for sure is that in the very center of your pattern, the density of pellets per square inch is higher in the center of the pattern, and as you move from the center to the outside edge, the density per square inch becomes less and less and less and less and less. So just wanted to show you that now. Now I'm going to come down and show you the fourth control we have, which says the diameter into which 95% of the shots are placed. So what Dr. Jones is basically saying is, let's suppose that you have developed a skill level and you have watched this on your dry fire, whereby you are never or seldom more than 14 inches from dead center. Now on dry fire we're talking inches from dead center, so we're talking radius. In Dr. Jones's tool here he's talking diameter, so if we double the radius, so if the skill level I have learned on dry fire appears to show me that most of the time I am closer than 14 inches from dead center, I can come into this window right here and set that for 28 inches, and now I'm saying the same thing here. I'm basically saying that I'm seldom ever more than 14 inches from dead center, which would be the diameter of a 14-inch radius. Now he goes on to say here the diameter into which 95% of the shots are placed. So what he's saying to you there is, if you watch yourself shoot on dry fire and you can say to yourself, gee, 95% of the time I'm never more than 14 inches from dead center, then if you set this to 28 as I have, that is the way we're going to represent your skill level within the pattern optimizer. Now, I'm going to skip this one right here, which is an offset, for a moment, and I'm going to take you now that we've done 4 settings, which is we defined the area of the target we're shooting at, we've defined the number of pellets that we're shooting at it, we've determined how big around the pattern will be at the time it intersects a target. We've described that our accuracy is 95% of the time we're not more than 14 inches from dead center. And when that all comes together, if you come down here and look into this lower right-hand cell, what Dr. Jones's mathematical tool is telling us that if that's what we can consistently do, then mathematically we will break 97.6% of the targets. So think about that again. So basically we have a tool that if we set in certain parameters, we can find out whether it's possible to break all the targets or not. Now in the example that we just went through, you're using a full choke, you're shooting targets at 33 yards away, you're using an 1 1/8 ounce load, and your accuracy is 14 inches, and this tool tells us then that your score will average 97.6. So you're not at a point where you are going to be able to break 100% of the targets using this combination and this skill. Now, we're going to leave basically this level 1 pattern optimizer at this point with one final thing. What is this slider all about in here? And this slider is, if your gun is not perfectly tuned, let's suppose that your gun, if you were to do some serious patterning with Dr. Jones's pattern analyzer, you found out that your gun was shooting 3 inches to the left of where you thought it was shooting, or 3 inches to the left of perfect, you can come into this window and set in 3 inches, and you can let it see how that varies your score that you're going to receive. So notice right now that it's 97.6, and if I put in a 3-inch problem in my gun in that it shoots 3 inches to the left of where I point it, that is going to affect my score by dropping my score to 96.5. So having your gun tuned that far off is going to lose you 1.1 birds out of every 100. Now, that's all we're going to talk about in this pattern analyzer level 1. I hope that I've caught your interest in seeing that for the first time in history you have the opportunity to see what your scores might possibly be based upon using different combinations of load weight, different chokes. Now in this case, if we're talking trap shooting, the target is not going to vary. And then we saw that skill level. Notice skill level here. As I bring the skill level down and make the skill level more precise, if you're looking down in the lower right hand corner, you see that the percentage is going up and up and up. So how does your skill level affect your final score? And then finally, how does a gun that is not properly tuned affect my final result? So we'll bring it to an end right there. Hope you've enjoyed it, and you might consider going on and taking a look at level 2 to see what we've added to the mix.